Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Joe.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week, we're reviewing The Martian.
Saving Private Martian.
Welcome to the 9th episode of How Many Fingers, featuring two guys getting soaked and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
Oh man, do we want to start with our guest today, Joe, explaining exactly what soaked means?
I think we do.
All right, so he just brought this up before we started recording, and we can't stop talking about it. But yeah.
All right, so I don't know how many people are familiar with the Mormon ideology, but I think like the staple of that religion is to preserve virginity instead of just the old in-out. They they start missionary, and the man enters the lady, and he stays there until something happens. Nobody really knows what happens.
As he should, yeah.
And it's called soaking. So nice. Now we're all getting soaked.
Yeah, we're
all going.
All the kids are doing
it. So next time you're getting drunk, just refer to that as getting soaked. And your missionary friends will be horrified.
We're really earning that parental advisory that we have on our podcast.
Don't let your parents hear it. That's not what that means. All right, so this week we're going to be drinking my personal favorite, Pikeland Pills. Sly Fox's Pikeland Pills. It's... I think I've given both of you guys one of these before.
Oh, yeah.
Many times.
Beer thoughts?
I think I've described it this way to you before, but it's like a party IPA. Like, it's got a little bit of that hoppiness, but it's like, it's light, it's easy to drink.
It is.
Joe could drink it.
I drink it like every night of the week. No, I don't. But I drink it sometimes. It's like the only beer I buy now. My stomach stopped being able to comprehend cheap beer. It started being like, Joe, I don't like this. I think
you've evolved.
It's literally always what's on tap here at Joe's house.
So why don't we introduce our guest here, who you've already heard from. Who just came right out of the gate talking hot and dirty.
You might remember him from explaining the meaning of soaked. We have Joe Manno joining us. Or if you go on our SoundCloud and you look at our only liked track. It is an episode that I did on his podcast called the O Word Podcast.
O Word.
And we talk about how many fingers. Go check it out. And we talk about other stuff.
We talk about getting fingered.
Right.
We talk about
music.
No.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, we talk about a lot of stuff. A little bit of soaking. I wish.
Did you guys get into soaking?
No,
I was going to say, I listened to it.
Soaking's completely new to me.
I've had it on my notes for like 3 episodes, and I just haven't had a chance to slip it in yet. Slip it in
and keep it there.
Don't remove it. But if you want to plug that real quick, where can they find the O Word Podcast?
So if you go to owordpodcast.wordpress.com, it'll have all the information on there. It's on iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn and
SoundCloud.
All that stuff. SoundCloud, yeah.
Nice.
But if you go to the website, all the information's right there. So check it out. Joseph was on. It was a great episode.
A word?
Oh, it was good.
Yeah, and so hopefully...
Michael's in the whole thing.
Yeah, and then...
It's rare, but I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah, he was there. He was just silent in the background, commenting in his head.
He was in the closet.
Yeah.
All right.
Like R. Kelly.
Right.
Just thinking about soaking.
Aren't we all?
All right, so this week, like we said, we're reviewing The Martian, and according to the IMDb description, it's about during a manned mission to Mars, astronaut Mark Watney is presumed dead after a fierce storm and left behind by his crew. But Watney has survived and finds himself stranded and alone on the hostile planet. With only meager supplies, he must draw upon his ingenuity, wit, and spirit to subsist and find a way to signal to Earth that he is alive.
Okay. So, and I told Mike,
Go.
I want to. Okay. The first question I want to ask either of you is if you've seen the year 2000 film Mission to Mars.
I was a big fan when I was a kid.
No, really though?
Yeah, I saw. I mean, I haven't watched it. In
Who's in it? You gotta refresh my memory.
Okay, so it has.
Is that the Val Kilmer one?
No. It has Gary Sinise, Tim Robbins, and Don Cheadle.
I
I
think I have, but I remember barely anything.
So
about
I asked this because it has a disturbingly similar plot to The Martian. It starts on Mars, and with I think it's the first manned mission to Mars, and then there's this unpredicted storm that pops up and ends up leaving a single person stranded on Mars. And I think it's Don Cheadle, I think. I didn't really do the research. But he survives. He survived. They go back and try to. It's a mission to Mars to go rescue him. But he survives by turning one of the space station rooms into a greenhouse where
God.
he grows vegetables to stay alive. Coincidence?
Well, this was alright. So this is based on a book. When did that book come out? Then I think that was not that long ago.
But I'd look further into this if the last 15 minutes of Mission to Mars didn't they introduce aliens in the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Are you just reading the description, or did you see Mission to Mars? Is it really that similar? Or?
No. I've
I went to Mars.
It was a pretty terrible film. It came out in the year 2000, like I said.
Great film.
I saw it in theaters for somebody's birthday. It was a really weird movie to pack a minivan full of kids and take
Mission to Mars. Happy birthday!
Yeah, it came out in 2011, so I had to be 11 years old. And I think that was like one of the first films where I really started, the critical wheel started to like turn my head. I was like, could we have made this film any differently? Anyway.
Well, I mean, the novel came out in 2011, the one that The Martian's based on.
Well,
so he could have seen Mission to Mars and been
like,
you know what? I can make this better.
Because it was a bad movie. But anyway, that was directed by, wait for it, the Brian De Palma, who also directed just a few small films by the name of Carrie, Scarface, The Untouchables, Mission Impossible, and then he went straight into Mission to Mars. So
Shouldn't have done another mission.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with the book at all? Like, did you check the book out?
No, and this is why I asked you to be on this episode.
There's some context here.
Because
our Martian consultant.
Right, because I believe you were telling me we were
drinking Sly Fox Lakeland pills.
Right.
Too many of them. And I was
soaking.
Yeah.
Soaking in some Sly Fox.
In each other.
Open a can of soak.
And my girlfriend, she listened to the audiobook, and we had to go out to Cincinnati for a wedding in October, and I heard the first couple chapters, like a couple hours of it, and the book was like really cool. It had that same like sense of humor, but like less corny than the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can see it making more sense in the book.
Yeah, and they had a little bit more. I heard a little bit of the NASA story, like the NASA side of it. You know how the movie goes into that.
Right.
But it was way more in depth from Mark Watney, Matt Damon's character.
Did you finish the audiobook?
Dude, I listened to like maybe 4 chapters of it, a couple hours.
So how much did they get into the NASA stuff at that point?
It was like just beginning the NASA. It was like one chapter of NASA stuff.
That was one of the first, like, before I'd even seen the movie, that was my first complaint that I had heard from other people, is that a huge part of the book, and like one of the biggest like twists and surprises in the book, spoiler alert, even though the movie spoils it, is that NASA finding out that he is alive on Mars. And that doesn't happen until later in the movie, and
it's not even like a surprise in the movie. Like, obviously,
but people were complaining that when the trailer came out, it was showing that they already knew he was alive on Mars. Like, which I don't know. I didn't read the book, but that's what people.
There's a whole movie.
I read an article that was.
And the theatrical poster has a big picture of Matt Damon's face, and it just says, "Bring him home." Bring Dave home.
No, but the reader doesn't know that NASA knows that he's alive. So there's this real sense of like isolation of like, all right, well, he doesn't know how he's going to get home. He doesn't know if anyone knows he's still up here and not dead.
Right.
And then in the trailer, it's like, oh, we found him. We got to bring him home. So the trailer spoiled a big part of the book, and people were complaining about that.
One of my biggest beefs with the movie is it should be just called like NASA politics or something, or like it
should be called Everything Goes Wrong in Space.
But so much of it,
Mission to Mars.
So much of it takes place like at NASA headquarters or whatever with Jeff Daniels and the guy from 12 Years a Slave whose name I can't pronounce.
Chiwetel.
Yeah. But like, I don't want to watch that shit. I want to watch like him surviving on Mars.
Yeah.
But just to bring it back to, so you guys listened to that on the way to this wedding.
Yeah.
You guys are doing this audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
Then, from what I understand, you guys went on a date.
Yeah, it was a date. I went on a date with my girlfriend.
Did you soak?
You guys went. So before or after the movie?
Can't confirm or deny. I did.
But I want to know what both of you guys thought of the movie. With both of you getting a taste of the book.
So am I spoiler alerting my how many fingers right now?
No. We're totally. I feel like we get into whether we like it or don't like it during the discussion.
I fucking hate it. I dislike it so much.
Ooh, and what about your girlfriend?
She disliked it too.
Really?
In large part.
Liked it.
No, in large part because she felt it wasn't true to like the really the emotion and stuff to the book. Like she thought they left out. And obviously, all movie portrayals leave out stuff from the book. That's just the way it is.
And I think I've said that in previous podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, movies based on books
they're different
aren't
mediums.
really movies based on books. I feel like they have to stand alone. Like, they have to have, like, their own kind of thing.
Yeah. But she felt the stuff they left out were so integral to the to like the whole story that it just... I mean... I got a lot of problems with this movie.
Right.
This movie, it was just too sentimental and, like, overly feel-good when it could have been, like, a really awesome psychological, like, lonely sort of thriller.
That was my biggest complaint is that
they
went really heavy with the comic relief.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm gonna science the shit out of this.
And then the fact that, like... kind of related to what I was talking about before, like knowing that NASA, at least as a reader or a viewer, knowing that NASA knows that he's up there, it kind of ruins the whole isolation aspect of it it could have been like a deserted island movie, like in space,
exactly.
which would have been really cool, but like it's really not long before he makes contact with NASA, and like there's really not a lot of him, the psychological struggles of being alone on a planet that no one else lives on.
Which would be, insane.
Like, not even, like, birds or anything. Like, no living other thing is on there. And
exactly. And I'm sorry to bring it back to
Mission to Mars.
But I feel like the being alone in space is, like, a relatively common theme in film. Like, I found myself comparing this film to...
Gravity.
Mission to Mars. And
should have known.
or Moon, the entire time I was watching it. Which brings me to my love/hate relationship with the film's like captain's log device. Because this film, really strived to separate itself from science fiction.
Joe's doing air quotes if you can. For those who can't see.
They can see it.
All right.
I mean, I'm glad that like they didn't have like a computer that talked to Matt Damon, like in like Moon or like a 2001 like Space Odyssey or like something. I'm glad they didn't do that. However, like the captain's log device that they used in the movie was a little overused. Like it was fine when he's in the space station being like, "Hey, this is an update," but when he would like bring like the video camera or whatever like out into like the rover or out into space, like it felt like he was like a YouTube vlogger, like a video blogger, like, "Hey guys, in my space rover right now." Like,
well, because every time he was doing that, he was being funny, so it was always ruining. Like even when there was like weird, bad stuff going on, like he was still being funny, and he never kind of lost his like sense of humor.
Right. Yeah.
Which I guess if that's the character, but then for us as an audience, like we find it hard to like really feel for this guy because he just looks like he's having a good time on Mars and like making cool YouTube videos.
Right, yeah.
But that was the thing about the book, though, is they have like those captain logs. Like his point of view in the book is written as those captain logs, so it'll be like Soul 7, blah blah blah. So it's written the same way, but there's more like panic sort of to the way he's saying things, and those jokes are like darker and more like I'm fucked instead of like I'm gonna science the shit out of this.
Yeah.
Like laugh track claps and He just came off as like a comic book character, or like a cartoon or something.
I think the device of the Captain Log helped convey like his personal narrative, but it also brought along those lines that we've been shouting out the whole time, like, I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this, or like, I'm a space pirate, or like, or whatever the fuck he said, like, the entire time. He said he was a space pirate like 3 times, and I was like, okay, Matt Damon.
Go back to the what Mike was saying about they show the NASA thing like right away in the trailer and stuff.
Right.
At no point in the movie did I feel like he was never gonna survive.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
a huge part of movies like this is feeling like oh shit, they might kill the main character, which I never thought was gonna happen.
Well, then the other thing is that like they didn't show him like really like losing weight, or like he didn't even like grow a beard really until like the very end, right before he went on that trip.
Right.
Which like that would have been a small thing you could have done to be like, he's under dire circumstances up here. He's rationing his food the entire time. He's living off only potatoes and ketchup like the entire time.
Just
like,
looking like a stud.
yeah, like he looked fine the entire time.
Like,
and then when they did show that scene, you were like, oh, okay, now I get it. But that didn't happen until like forever into the movie. So they really didn't play that up at all.
Then also for like Back Down on Earth, like, I feel like they cast like this massive big name ensemble cast to be the supporting role Back Down on Earth or in like Mission Control or whatever it's called. And honestly, I just didn't really care about any of that, Like, it's like they gathered like this huge cast. I was just like, or like the whole NASA, we're having a PR problem kind of thing. Like, like whereas it was, it's cool that it's fictional, but realistic, like a futuristic version of like Apollo 13 is like how I saw this. But like it hasn't happened. So like I feel like they could have used that to their advantage to be like meanwhile down in NASA, like people were at each other's throats, where like it was more like, how do we solve this problem, or like how do we tell people about this? And then those are the voices that they used.
Donald Glover shows up.
Childish Gambino.
Cartoon. He like wakes up and like brushes the fucking sand out of his eyes.
Right.
And like he's all weird and socially awkward. And it's like, come on.
I mean, I think it would have been better if it was a less well-known actor in that role, because it was such a small part, and it was just like a little bit part.
But it was just so cartoony.
Yes, yeah, and then even the part when he's explaining his plan. I forget what the character's name is, because that's what they named the plane after. But he's literally got like the stapler, and he's flying around the room making like airplane noises, like.
Yeah, he's talking to like the high up NASA dudes who like
he was like a Donald Glover playing like an eccentric Donald Glover kind of, who and then like sometimes I wonder if like what like we were talking about before with Nick, like whether like this was something he really gunned for because it had like Oscar weight, or whether this was like something that was like a cash grab, like he did in this year 2015. He did like the Lazarus Effect, which was a fucking shitstorm of a horror film.
Did you see it?
And, no.
Okay, good.
No. But I know like Mark Duplass did it, who I know he does like a lot of like, I just kind of want money kind of like thing. But one of my favorite scenes of Donald Glover is before we even meet him. Basically, they have like a dolly shot, and then the camera like pans across like a huge chalkboard that he's sleeping next to, and like it's like littered with like physics, like equations and stuff, and then at the bottom in all caps it just says "Science!" and it has an exclamation point.
Are you serious?
Like, it was like, just in case you didn't know, this character like science. Like,
I did not notice that.
He finished like an occasion and he's like, yeah, like
science!
Like with an exclamation mark. It was like the corniest scene ever. And he like wakes up and he's like, hold on, I need more coffee to do this science. Like,
yeah, I mean, on that note, in terms of Childish Gambino's performance, I felt like Matt Damon was the only actor who really held his weight.
Okay, so I don't mean to sidetrack here, but I got major beef with Matt Damon.
Do you?
I do.
Every time he comes over here and we get like drunk and talk, he talks about like, we argue about like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
And it feels like I come off as like a major Ben Affleck supporter, which is not the case. I don't really give a shit either way about Ben Affleck. Mm-hmm. But ever since Good Will Hunting, Matt Damon gets all this credit for being like, everyone kind of has that joke like, oh, we all know Matt Damon was behind Good Will Hunting, like, wink, wink. But like, Matt Damon kind of fucking sucks. Like, he hasn't
He
really
hasn't done a lot
good
great,
stuff in 10 years. Like, every once in a while he'll put out a good movie. I'll give him that.
Well,
But
I feel like
he
he does
doesn't
he does
direct-
not pick good movies either. Like,
Yeah,
he
he
doesn't
doesn't.
really test himself at all.
But the other thing is, Ben
Justin
Affleck...
Burrow.
Yeah, that movie sucked. But for all the shit that Ben Affleck gets, and again, I feel so lame supporting Ben Affleck like this, but for all the shit he gets, at least he's gone out and, like, directed stuff and, like, kind of pushed his career further
and
than
cast
just being
himself
an actor.
as a Hispanic.
Yeah. But everybody gives Damon this credit that I just don't think he fucking deserves. He was awesome in the late 90s.
Here on the other side of the spectrum, again, I don't really like either of them, but I particularly hate Ben Affleck. I think he's a dum-dum.
But I get
and I think Matt Damon wrote all of Good Will Hunting. There's like that Family Guy skit where like it's literally like it's showing like the writing process of Good Will Hunting, and it has like Matt Damon, and he's like, "What's another word for?" And he says like a word, and then Ben Affleck's like laying down on the couch. He's like, "Do you have any more weed?" Like, it's like that's how I picture it going.
But why does everybody think Matt Damon could write
Because
a movie like that?
He's like America's child. He's like
He also
like,
he didn't
don't
really
vote
get
for
caught
that
up in like the
syrup.
tabloids like Ben Affleck did, like because you had
Yeah,
like
but
Bennifer and all that
didn't
But
stuff.
Ben Affleck was crushing tail. He was soaking some tail.
He was so
He was soaking in J-Lo. But
I just don't get it. I don't think like Ben Affleck hasn't really earned that much more respect. Or wow.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I agree with
Matt
you on
Damon
that.
hasn't earned much more respect than Ben Affleck.
Because I
has.
think even as a directorial debut of like The Town, which was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we just talked about.
Did he direct
that.
The Town?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why he starred in it.
Yeah.
Oh.
No one
He
can
loves-
give him
I
that.
thought
He
Argo
loves
was
to,
his
like,
first.
He loves to star in his own movies, and then he did Argo, which was based off of a fucking BuzzFeed article.
Yeah.
And
neither- neither movie-
He saw like a BuzzFeed article, and he's like, "Oh wow, that happened." And then he wrote like a movie about it, and
Oh, the main guy's Hispanic. I'll play him. It's
Oh,
fine.
right,
and I'll
yeah.
take my shirt off.
and that's a whole nother thing I'll get into. But I think Argo was one of the worst, most overrated films ever.
Yeah,
like,
I
to
mean,
win.
it's
It won
definitely-
Best Picture.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
Well, because it's about Hollywood, and Hollywood loves to, soak in
Mm-hmm.
themselves. But, no, neither of those movies are very good.
right.
However, Matt Damon's never fucking done anything.
Right.
Really,
No,
the only
yeah.
You know what I
acting
mean?
role that has any clout is Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, and he's never shown, like, the want or anything to go beyond that. They produce movies together, but I don't know if you've seen Project Greenlight at all,
No.
but they're both producers on those movies. But Ben Affleck's way more involved in in the creative process than Matt Damon is ever in those shows. And that's a shitty TV show, so it's probably a bad example. But I don't know these guys, so it's the only example I have. I fuck Matt Damon is what I'm saying. Okay?
However,
Shots fired,
I
Matt
do think
Damon.
he did show some chops in this movie where the writing allowed for it, because
I don't think he's a terrible actor. I just don't get... He's sort of one of those actors that people say, like, oh, Matt Damon movie. Gotta go see that. And
yeah,
I don't get that
he
at
kind of
all.
pulls for no real reason.
He made like 8 Bourne
because
movies.
he hasn't made a
and
lot
that's
of
it.
great movies, and he also hasn't like really been that involved in like the tabloids
I
and
think
stuff.
I think I might rage if he gets nominated for Best Actor, because I really
I think I
no
would
way.
too, but I there were some scenes, and I have written down here A+ for these scenes in my grading
wow.
of them. The scene where he first has like contact with humans, I think it's in the rover when he's writing to them on like the little chat screen. Like just there's like little scenes where I thought he really brought his A game, and like him like almost crying. I think he actually does cry in that scene.
Right.
Like that was something that really made me feel like, how would you feel if you had been literally on Mars for a couple weeks and finally got to speak to like a human again after thinking you were basically going to die there? I thought he was good there. The scene where he was reunited with the crew, I thought was really good and real. But then, yeah, like the scenes like where he's doing like the video logs and captain's logs and stuff like that. Like he's just like goofy, but it's like the writing was kind of calling for it there. So I can't totally fault him for it. But yeah, I think everyone else was pretty much acting wise not really doing much. Michael Pena, why does he keep getting cast in movies is a note that I have down.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Wait,
exactly.
He hasn't
You
done
don't like
anything
Michael
since
Pena?
Crash. No, I do
I
not.
like Michael Pena. I mean,
I did not like him in this movie at
Yeah,
all.
I don't really.
too.
You know, he has like what 5 lines in this movie or something.
But even the lines he had were like horrible. Like the
But I
ones,
think this
it
whole
could have been like a
movie-
pivotal scene, the scene where the NASA crew. All right, so they go to Mars, they leave Matt Damon, they're like, oh, he's dead, we gotta go. They bounce, And then they find out a couple months later after NASA decides to tell them that, oh, that guy that you left there, he's actually alive.
Right.
And then they're deciding later if they're going to go back for him. But when they tell him that he's alive, his line is literally like, holy shit, he's alive. Like, I feel like there would definitely be way more emotion there if you found out that, like, your friend and crewmate that you left for dead was still alive.
But I think everybody in this movie is a victim of really poor writing.
Yeah, I mean, and I also have that the whole crew sucked in that scene. Like, none of them really made you feel like they cared about him.
Jessica Chastain, like, there's some good actors in this movie. But, like, you know, what are they going to fucking do with a
Jeff
shitty
Daniels.
script? Yeah, Jeff Daniels.
Chihuel, whatever his name is from The Best Picture.
Name we don't know.
Then the other Michael Pena line was, it's, what's the girl from Kevin Spacey, Netflix.
Mara? Right. Or Kate Mara?
Kate Mara.
One of the Maras?
Yeah, she's like she's the science bitch on the NASA.
Right, yeah.
And she's like explaining something, and she used a lot of technological terms, and they use that like cliche line, and Michael Pena's like, "Can you repeat that in English, please?" But like, he's a fucking astronaut. Like, he should be one of the smartest people.
Pena, how do you fucking not know this?
He's just the pilot. Okay, he doesn't need to know that.
But and they're somewhere along those lines. When you're fucking talking, I was gonna bring up and be like, man, how did that actually work? And I don't want to be like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like responding to gravity. But there's a ton of shit in this movie where I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like I feel like Matt Damon's suit is always breaking, and he's in space. Like, how is he like? Oh, my helmet's cracked. Like, you know, like. He's always like, or like the last scene when like he's trying to like boost up to be saved, he cuts like his gloves so he can like get the air pressure from out of his suit like up to the. I was like, no, that's how you would die. Like,
dude, I laughed my ass off when that happened. That was the biggest. Like, that's when I completely checked out.
All right,
like,
so yeah,
100%.
Yeah, he cuts the hole in his hand so that he can release air from his suit to basically...
Right. So he can, like, control himself back
yeah.
to... But it was just so cartoony and ridiculous. Like, the whole time I was thinking the same thing. Like, that's how you die.
Right.
Like, you would die in, like, a second. I would.
Right.
I don't know shit about space, but I would think.
But I guess another thing that I wanted to bring up before this episode ends is that I did appreciate that there was no one that was, like, a straight-up antagonist or like villain.
Mm-hmm.
The antagonist the entire course of the film was essentially the location of space, and on Earth it was more like the antagonist was like business or politics. You know, at NASA, like Jeff Daniels' character was like the closest that came to some sort of like antagonist, but even he was just like, you know, like, listen, like, we gotta have good PR, or people aren't gonna fund NASA anymore, which is a very real, you know, something that happens to this day. Like, we can, you know, like, the space program's we haven't really done shit in a while, and you know, and I can, in the future, when we do get people to Mars, it's like, like, you know, nobody wants bad press, you know. So everybody was within reason, and it was literally, you know, the antagonist was the elements, or it was politics, or it was, you know, it was more abstract than it was like a person like, I hope Matt Damon doesn't come back to Earth.
So I also want to talk about the ending, spoiler alert. Like, obviously we knew the entire time that he was going to like get back, but then the scene after basically like the epilogue of the film is Matt Damon teaching a course to NASA astronauts, which is like, he just survived like this crazy thing. They really had this opportunity to make like a really poignant statement about like hope and faith and like survival, the human spirit, and they go for humor, which they've just been doing the entire movie. It's just jokes, 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 jokes. And it's just Matt Damon making jokes about like poop and feces and stuff to like this class, and that bugged me. That put a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, that was literally like the last line of like the movie. It was like, "Can you believe I ate my own poop?" Like,
yeah, and then hard cut, literally, credits,
and then the credits rolled. It was like,
yeah.
And I think that's the biggest flaw of this whole movie. It's just they just kept going to humor and using humor as like a crutch throughout the entire movie. Where like it could have been literally like Castaway on Mars, which could have been really cool. Like, and they did get through that in terms of the aspect of like, problem solving and everything's always going wrong, and it is a survival movie, but you never feel like the isolation of him being alone. You never feel like the danger of him thinking he's going to die.
Right.
And even when he does say lines about going to die, he's sarcastic about it. So you don't really feel it as like an audience. We never see Matt Damon break down and be like, I'm going to fucking die here.
Right.
I'm hard. It's
Yeah.
like the only time he cries is when he has contact with humans, which is like a good thing. We never
Right.
see like bad crying or like bad feelings. So
So I want to, I don't want to cut you off.
sounds like you do want to cut me off.
So I want to cut you off because that was dumb. What was he even fucking talking about? Did anybody get that? Who the fuck is this guy? So I want to bring it back. I want to circle it back around to essentially like the title of this podcast. How many fingers are we holding up? And I don't know who wants to start, but I don't want to start because I still don't have a rating.
I think Joe wants
I'll
to start.
I'll start so hard.
I didn't know which Joe you meant.
Yeah, we're both Joe. But so my whole thing about this movie is I keep calling it Disney's The Martian because it's just overly fucking sentimental and feel good, and it didn't have to be. It could have been awesome. But especially the source material seemed cool, and it just sucked. I give it 2 fingers.
2 fingers.
2 fingers.
Joe says peace to
Yeah,
this
I'm
movie.
done with this shit. I'll never see it again. 2 fingers. Matt Damon can suck it.
Hey Matt, this coming straight for you.
All right, other Joe, what do you got?
Shit, it's gonna go right to me because I actually think I might go with the same thing. I think I might give this 2 fingers.
2.
Joe's United.
There was just so much. I know there was a book, but there was just a lot of content there. I think something I wanted to slip in at the end was like the disco music and everything. Like that.
I did have that as a note somewhere.
That could have played like a cool like theme. But instead, Matt Damon had to make like a bunch of lame jokes about it, and it became like a lesser where something that was goofy could have been played off as something sentimental and really worked as like an arcing metaphor. Like instead, Matt Damon's like, man, I wish you guys didn't leave me on this planet all by myself with this terrible music.
Yeah.
It
was just another punchline
I
for
think
him.
that almost brought like the score down for me. Is I don't know, and it just. I don't think I went into this film expecting much, and I came away like, well, that wasn't much, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't know whether I want to make it. You know what? I might make it 2.5. 2.5 fingers.
All right.
2.5 fingers. Pussy.
All right, I gave
I
it.
want to soak.
I gave it 3.5 fingers.
All right.
I mean, I thought Matt Damon was good in it. I thought the suspense was good, and I thought they did actually have good emotions when they had them in there, although they could have been more.
Right.
But yeah, overall there was too much humor. The music was definitely bad. I had a note about that one montage that was in there with the disco music of him like
Terrible.
Yeah, solving stuff on Mars. Like that probably lost like a whole star for me right there. And then the ensemble acting was horrible, and yeah, just not enough isolation or anything like that. But I still enjoyed it. I was not bored throughout the entire movie, and I was entertained the entire time. I thought the suspense was enough to warrant a 3.5 out of 5. Sorry, guys, I let you down. I can see in your faces right now.
Hey, it's okay. You like bad movies.
All right, so
all right.
that comes out to if you average all of that on a calculator app on our smartphone, because again, we cannot do very rudimentary
That's a smartphone.
rudimentary math. It comes out to a 2.6 repeating, and then a 7 comes in there somewhere.
Oh.
But anyway...
So it would be a 2.5 if we round down.
2.5 fingers. That would be our official rating of this movie.
Just right down the middle.
Split down the middle. Right into the soak zone. Alright, so I think that's going to be us signing out. My name is Joe. Oh wait,
one last plug. Yeah,
let's do one last plug for other Joe.
All right, O Word Podcast. You can go to the owordpodcast.wordpress.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Joe Manno MANNO _, and you'll get all the information there.
He's a
Thanks.
real troll on Twitter, this one.
I cyberbully my friends that nobody knows. So check that out. Thanks for having me. Martian sucked.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Martian sucked, Joe. Wow. All right, yeah. So yeah, that's been Joe.
Signing out for How Many Fingers the podcast. This is Mike,
And I'm Joe.
and see ya.
Bye.
Hey everybody, Mike again. Just here to give you a quick rundown of what to expect next week. On Thursday, January 14th, we'll release Episode 10, which is our drunken review of The Big Short. But that morning, the Academy Award nominations will be announced. The Oscars are basically like the playoffs to us, so we'll be recording a special episode that night with our reactions to the nominations and maybe even some early predictions. And we'll be releasing that the following day, Friday the 15th. So if you're interested to hear our reactions, here's where you can find us. We're on iTunes, the podcast app, and TuneIn if you just search How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? You can follow us on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/HowManyFingersPodcast. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/HowManyFingersPodcast. You can tweet us on Twitter at HMFPodcast. And if you have suggestions for beers we should drink or synonyms for drunk that we should use, please let us know on there. And you can check out our official website at HowManyFingersPodcast.com. And check out the links page on our website to find our YouTube link because we can't set a custom URL, so it's just a random splattering of alphanumeric characters that I can't read back to you. And don't forget, we'll be back next week with our drunken review of The Big Short, as well as a special Oscar nominations reaction episode.